Hello everyone, and welcome back to the last and final video of the basics of gardening. This video, we're going to discuss gardening. I know what you're thinking. Haven't we been discussing gardening throughout these last few videos? And you're right, we have, but we've never gotten outside opinions on gardening before. I had initially wanted to go out and interview strangers in public, and I even bought a microphone for it. But after thinking about it, I thought that the process of making people sign waivers to let me use their face and voice would be a little bit too much work. And also, my mom is sick, luckily not with COVID, but I needed a ride. But because of all of these obstacles, I decided to ask strangers another way, through the internet. I asked people on Facebook forums, on Reddit forums, on Twitter, and on TikTok. Sadly, no one responded to me on Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, but the people of Reddit did. So, I asked them this question: why do you love to garden? I think having plants is really, really fun and can teach a person a lot. You need to have patience as some plants grow slower than others. Problem-solving skills are often required to figure out plant needs and why it may not be happy. Sometimes it's as simple as the plant needs water, but sometimes it isn't as simple as that. And there's always something new to learn, which makes it even more fun. There isn't really a right or wrong way to keep plants, most of the time. And often, you need to figure out what works for you. That was by Reddit user Valky. Peregrine_perp said, so, when I was little, like maybe 9, I decided to make my own garden. I'm not sure what possessed me to do it. No adults were involved. I didn't tell anyone. Probably I was inspired by the book, The Secret Garden. Anyways, 3 things stand out in my memory from that project. First, I had a great feeling of accomplishment that I had done something so adult on my own, and that I'd even managed to grow real food that I could eat. Second, watching the process of life was pure magic. Tiny seeds sprout and grow into full adult plants, then make flowers and eventually fruit. It gave me a better appreciation of life and the foods we eat. Food doesn't magically appear on grocery shelves. To this day, seeing food waste drives me crazy. Third, it was a gentle introduction to loss and grief. We all have to deal with loss and grief in life. I'm so grateful that my first experience wasn't something as traumatic as the death of a friend or family member. Losing plants to pests or mismanagement or winter cold was upsetting, but it taught me how to manage those feelings. I also saw how fragile and precious life can be. This helped prepare me for the eventual death of our beloved family dog and then my grandmother. Edited to add, I grew up in farm country and had to help my mom in her huge vegetable garden, so that's how I had enough knowledge to attempt such a thing on my own. Funny thing is, I hated the chore of working in my mom's garden, but I loved my garden so much. Rains of Change wrote, if you have been feeling like you have lost touch with life and the natural world and feel like time is just slipping by you, gardening will bring you back to earth and make you check back in. Seeing the small seeds and flowers that create the food and things I have always enjoyed but never knew the life cycles of is an absolute delight. Caring for something that takes time and patience but also has me checking the skies and weather makes me tune into the outside world and time. It reminds me of playing outside when I was a child, when it was your job to make shapes out of clouds and jump into puddles and dig in the dirt. I love seeing crops I had largely only ever seen in the store. I like onions and herbs flowering, broccoli and cauliflower flowering. Caring for and growing things I could enjoy and even harvest to eat offered a sense of accomplishment and connection to the world. I loved tuning more carefully into the seasons again outside of calendar events. It was also empowering. Environmental sciences always fascinated me, so the idea of gaining some of my own independence and sticking it to big agriculture feels freeing. It also makes you much more appreciative and aware of our global food market and how much work goes in off the backs of other people around the world, just so food can be enjoyed cheaply everywhere. Gardening is such a beautiful and complexly simple thing. It's a very human experience. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Hey Katja wrote, the artistic development of a space over time. God help me please 12 wrote, I mean, if you're good at it, you save money on produce. If the world ends or the economy collapses, you have your own food source. Frequent underscore lake underscore 5699 wrote, harvesting, eating the vegetables before I get into the house, sharing my harvest, really too many more things to mention. The Patch on Telfair wrote, aside from what others have already shared, here's a couple of mine. Veggies from a garden taste incredible. A sense of accomplishment when you see your plants thriving. You can make the experience completely your own. Plant what you want, design the garden how you like, etc. There are so many other gardeners to talk to, especially now. You'll have something in common with people everywhere you go. Your seedlings or harvest with your family, friends, and neighbors will always brighten your day. Ap Ari wrote, having something to do every day during the season. I enjoy weeding, digging holes, and sitting in my garden while watching the bees. Getting produce out of it is also a bonus. OK Labra wrote, the experimentation. I've been gardening for over 20 years, and every year I come up with something new to try. This year I'm growing goji berries from seed and trying some new flowers. I've done all sorts of experiments and learned so much. Which watering methods are best? What's the optimal time to start planting indoors? Which containers work best on the patio? What tomato varieties sell best at market? Which plants do the honeybees prefer? Where can I put birdhouses that will get used every year? How can I stop rats from eating my fruit? It's one giant experiment each year. It never gets old. I'll never have all the answers because every year there are more questions to ask. Curious Witch Kiss wrote, nurturing. I need to nurture. It's my very purpose in this life. Gardening has saved my sanity, saved my life, helps me deal with the depression and loneliness. Plus, everything that you grow yourself just tastes better and the feeling of accomplishment can't be beat. Okay, so for me, my favorite part of gardening is all of the connections that you can make with others. I asked this question to complete strangers on the internet, not knowing how they were going to respond. Some of them told me their life stories from childhood. Some of them told me stories about their peers. There were a few more responses from the subreddit, but I didn't want to add any more for lack of time. I also loved talking about it with some of you guys in real life. Learning about past gardens that you've grown and why you enjoy the garden. Gardening for me has always been a way to share and accept things like knowledge, hope, and even the actual produce. I'm so glad that I've been able to embark on this journey with all of you, and I'm so grateful for this whole journey. Thank you so much for watching the basics of gardening.